Hello everyone, I'm Adrija. Welcome again. Today I'm back with another quite interesting story. This story was from one of our textbooks and the name of the story is The Open Window and it is written by Hector Hugh Munro. So I found it quite funny and interesting and I wanted to share it with you guys. And remember that there is a question at the end of this video related the story to check your understanding. So make sure to answer that question in the comment box below. So without any delay, let's begin with the story. The story is about a man named Mr. Frampton Nuttall. Mr. Frampton Nuttall moved to a rural village where his sister lived 4 years ago. So Mr. Frampton Nuttall was basically an introvert, so he didn't talk a lot with others. So his sister gave some letters of introduction to him so that he would visit the other houses and talk with the neighbors of that village. His sister had told him to visit the house of a woman known as Mrs. Appleton. So one day he went to her house, but he didn't find Mrs. Appleton there. He found her niece there. She was about 15 years old and she introduced herself as Vera. Mr. Frampton Nuttall also introduced himself. Vera said, "Do you know anyone here?" To this, Mr. Nuttall said that he had just moved here and didn't know practically anyone. To this, Vera said, "So basically you know nothing about my aunt." Frampton Nuttall agreed. Vera suddenly had a sad expression on her face. She said, "You don't know her great tragedy that happened 3 years ago, so it must have been after your sister's time." Frampton Nuttall asked, "What happened to her?" To this, Vera replied, "You don't know. Just 3 years back, my aunt's husband and her 2 brothers went hunting for the day, but they never came back. It is said that they got engulfed by the mud, but their bodies were never recovered. Poor aunt thinks that they will always come back someday from that open window. Don't you ever feel like why that window is open now? It's because aunt thinks that they will come back. Her husband would come back wearing a white coat and they would also have their dog with them, the old spaniel. They all got engulfed in the mud. That is why you see that large window is always open. They actually went hunting from that window and Mrs. Appleton thinks that they will again come back from the same window." Frampton Nuttall really felt pity for Mrs. Appleton. After a few minutes, Mrs. Appleton herself came back and apologized to Mr. Nuttall for coming late. Soon they started to talk, but Mr. Nuttall realized that Mrs. Appleton was always looking in the direction of the window. Mrs. Appleton said to Mr. Nuttall, "Please don't mind the open window. Actually, my husband and my brothers are going to come back any time now, and that is why the window is open." Mr. Nuttall really felt pity for Mrs. Appleton's behavior, and they again started talking about other things. Suddenly, Mrs. Appleton's face brightened up. She said, "Oh, my husband and my brothers are back." Mr. Nuttall suddenly got shocked. How would they come back if they had died 3 years back? He turned his head slowly and saw what? He saw that 3 figures were coming from the forest in the direction of their house. He was too terrified to talk. Mrs. Appleton's husband, her 2 brothers, and the spaniel came back. Mrs. Appleton's husband was indeed wearing a white coat. Mr. Nuttall grabbed his belongings and ran out of the door as fast as he could. Mrs. Appleton's husband and her 2 brothers came back. Her husband said, "Honey, we are back home. But who was the guy who ran out of the house?" Mrs. Appleton said, "Well, he was Mr. Frampton Nuttall. That was so weird, he didn't even say goodbye." To this, Vera replied, "I think it's the dog. We were having a conversation and he told me that he has a great fear of dogs. So that is why probably he ran out of the house." So this is how young Vera made a story and completely scared Mr. Frampton Nuttall. So this was the story. I hope you found it quite interesting and funny. Personally, I loved it a lot. Now is the time for the question. The question is, Mrs. Appleton's husband was wearing a coat of which color? Make sure to write the answer of this question in the comment box below. If you have any suggestions, please make sure to write it down in the comment box as well. If you like this story, then click on the like button, and to get such more interesting stories, click on the subscribe button. That's all for today. Thank you. Bye.